We have been looking at the terrible consequences of the sin of Adam and Eve, our first parents. We saw that they listened to the serpent, who was really Satan, and rebelled against God's commandment to not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Satan there is shown to us as a serpent. Now, there's a reason for that, which we will see as we go along. The moment our first parents began to question God, they fell into sin. As a result, the whole world was plunged into sin, with terrible consequences, as we shall see. And incidentally, it is a tremendous lesson to us that the moment we start questioning God because we don't like something that God tells us in the Bible, we are headed for sin. We are already acting in a rebellious way toward God. Well, as we go on here, in Genesis 3:16, God begins to give more details to Adam and Eve about the judgment upon them. That is, more details about them falling into sin. We read in verse 16 of Genesis chapter 3, "Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception." Now that's a strange statement, because it's saying that not only would conception bring a multiplication of sorrow in her life, but also that she would have more conception, that is, it would be multiplied many times over. We don't know what God's original plan would have been, because mankind sinned right from the beginning. And as families multiply, the potential for grief is greatly multiplied because of Adam and Eve's sin. "In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children," we read. Now, this language, God is focusing his attention upon Eve as a representative of all women. A woman's important role in life will be a wife and mother. It is through childbirth that the world will become populated. But this role of giving birth to children will be filled with sorrow. Why should that be? Don't we rejoice when a new baby is born? Of course we do. The miracle of new life is a cause for rejoicing. However, a child is brought into this world through the pain of giving birth. There is intense physical pain involved for the mother. Not only that, but as that child grows, he or she will give sorrow to the parents because that child is not perfect. Children often become ill and may even die, and because the child is a sinner, he may be rebellious very early in life toward his parents, causing them more pain and sorrow. Becoming a mother should be entirely joyful beyond measure, but because of the curse upon the woman, having children is often a cause of great pain and sorrow. Then God goes on to say, "Thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee." Why is that a curse upon the woman? Before sin came into the world, Adam and Eve were in complete harmony with God and each other. When Eve was created, Adam said that she was bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. In other words, he valued the high, intimate relationship that automatically existed between a man and his wife, and a wife and her husband. We do not read that Adam ruled over Eve in any sense, but we do know that was the plan of God, and therefore it would have been occurring. But now there is a change. God says that the woman's desire shall be to her husband, and he will rule over her. Later in the Bible, God gives more specific rules for the marriage and declares that the wife is to be submissive to her husband. He is also head of the house, the final authority in the marriage. This is not difficult, perhaps, if the husband is a wonderful, godly man who strives to do things according to God's principles set forth in the Bible. But the problem is most men are not godly. He may not be a godly husband or even be a saved man, but the fact is, if he is unkind or cruel or a drunkard, the biblical rule still applies. He rules over his wife, and she must be obedient to him. Those rules were established assuming that mankind would be following God, but because they don't follow God, they break those rules, and consequently it is nothing but disaster for the wife and frequently for the marriage. Now God turns his attention to Adam. We read in Genesis chapter 3, verse 17, "And unto Adam he said, Because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, Thou shalt not eat of it, cursed is the ground for thy sake. In sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. Thorns also and thistles also shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the dust. For out of it wast thou taken, for dust thou art, and unto dust thou shalt return." This all is from the Bible and indicates the complete identification of mankind with the dust of this world. And we don't look at the dust today as something beautiful, as something pretty, as something nice. It normally is a problem. And exactly the same way wherever mankind comes, wherever they come, eventually there are the problems that arrive there because of the sin of man. I can still remember going way up in the mountains camping when I was younger. I would go with my family, and we would used to just be filled with awe as we saw what a beautiful lake this was, and a beautiful trees and so on. And then just give it a little time, and some people of the world will come and make camp close by, and the next thing, everything has changed. It has become a place of the world, and there is no blessing left in it. It is not the animals that finally make the world to stink, to make it a terrible place. It is mankind, because we bring our terrible thoughts and statements and curses and you name it into that part of the world. Oh my, that's as far as we're going to be able to go in this study.